We're gonna start with the really hard-hitting question. That one that we gotta ask. Has U-Bowl approached you about any of your properties, turning them into movies? Has anyone actually talked to you? Because I mean, your stuff is very, very cinematic. I mean,
yeah, we've met with a bunch of people. I think, I sort of have two minds about it. One is sort of as somebody who's supposed to be running a business, which is that a lot of these film projects end up not being very additive. It's hard to see how the Mortal Kombat franchise has really been moved forward by the Mortal Kombat movies. And then as a gamer, I think most of these movies are terrible and weren't worth making. And I would hate to see any of my favorite games sort of mangled like that. So we've tried a couple of different times to see if some sort of movie project would be possible. So we've had people in Hollywood try to do scripts, and we've actually taken a stab at writing a script, and at the end of the day, none of the movies were worth doing. So maybe someday, but it's not going to be made until, I mean, our goal would be that the movie would be as good a movie as the games are games. The episodic content will be better than Half-Life 2 was. That, they may be shorter, but the content itself is going to continue to move forward and hopefully move forward faster than we've been able to do with these large-scale releases. People really enjoyed the closely coupled interactions. Like a lot of people, their favorite moment in the game was playing ball with Dog, and this idea that you have this other creature in the world who's interacting with you in this fine-grained way, where you're doing something and they're reacting to it right there. And so that's something we say we need to do a lot more of that. We need to make the player feel like they can rely on and are dependent upon other people in the game, and not in some high-level storytelling way, but in an actual, I need you to do something for me right now. And so there's a lot of stuff where you can't do anything, you're relying on Alex to do it for you, and what you can do is get her to do stuff for you. So you're feeling like the two of you are working closely together.
That's really interesting, because that's, at least in terms of console games, that's almost the opposite of the paradigm, where you have a helpless sort of female consort, that you're guiding through things. Resident Evil 4 was one of the more recent things to add that. Prince of Persia did.
You don't want to have the sense that there's a box around the NPC, and you see these boxes bumping into each other. You want to have a sense that they're in the world, interacting with things closely. Like they can reach out to stuff, they can push things to the ground, they can kick things, stuff like that, and have it not be that sort of fakey box interaction. There's this technology that was really exciting that I'd like to see us get into production, which is a different approach to rendering complexity, moving things into and out of an image domain, and then seamlessly interpolating between those motions as you move around. So everything close to you is physical and is geometry, and everything really far away from you is an image, but you have no way of telling that if you do it properly, and things can fly out and come back. So as far as you're concerned, it all feels like world to you. But as far as your rendering is concerned, you're keeping your polygon budgets and your shader budgets and your fill rates under control. We're focusing on things that have more obvious gameplay significance, like NPCs and vehicles and stuff like that earlier, because it's always good to do gameplay stuff. But I would like us to come back to that. I'd love to be able to put people down into cities where they can navigate the entire city and have them feel like, my God, there's a huge amount of stuff going on around me, and I can walk, anything I can see, I can walk over, and in the background, that stuff is going from being essentially a skybox to sort of a low-res version of geometry to a high-res version of geometry as I get closer to it. What do you think of Lost Coast?
It looks great. I mean, you can tell the difference in 2 seconds. And actually, I was just like when I was playing on a DoD source between a non-HDR machine and an HDR machine, it looked really good. You can tell the difference in like a second.
Good.
And the director's sort of like documentary notes and stuff. I think it's a great idea.
Great.
Incorporate that into more games.
Well, hopefully that'll be like a standard feature of all of our stuff now.
Right.
That's the thing is we like being able to get stuff out to people like HDR. We can solve all the technical problems, get it out, make sure it works with everybody's display adapters, and then DoD takes advantage of it right away. So rather than waiting until Half-Life 3 ships for our multiplayer games to get a feature like HDR, we can do it in Lost Coast, and then DoD source picks it up right away. So HDR now, and maybe this image-based rendering stuff later, but it does make it possible for us to do that. The thing that we don't understand that's going to be really interesting is it's like the entire industry has been making feature films, right? And the door is starting to open for TV shows, right? And TV shows are totally different than movies in terms of the people who are good at it and how you structure them. And in movies it's directors that are preeminent. In TV shows it's the head writer, the showrunner who's preeminent. I think we'll all be learning a lot. It's like, do we need to release 22 times a year? Does it need to be a TV show? Is it once a week is the sort of the important frequency of releasing, or is once a quarter okay? There were two sort of big, sort of painful periods for Steam. One was when it went from being optional to being the way that everybody needed to get updates. And that was pretty painful for people. And then the Half-Life 2 launch where we got swamped with not having enough capacity. So those are both painful memories for us. And at least right now we're not setting anybody on fire. We seem to be getting updates out on a really regular basis. We seem to have that process really smooth right now. Right now we're sort of re-architecting Steam. So people are actually running two versions of Steam right now. They may not realize that, but they're running Steam 2 and Steam 3 alongside of each other. The nice thing about having a system like this is that there's no reason not to have your old system and your new system coexist while you're migrating functionality from one to the other. One of the problems that we had were there were architectural problems that made Friends unreliable. And so the new version of Steam, its approach to connections and how it manages connections should make Friends a lot more reliable. So, just from a technical perspective, it's evolving, and from a not annoying the hell out of our customer perspective, I think we're out of that hole. It certainly turned out to be a great way to sell products, right? I mean, we were worried that people wouldn't want to purchase products that way, and now that's not really a concern of ours.